whole time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, in the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, April 26th, 2020. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with my co-host, well, he's up there tonight.
Hey, Steve, how's it going, man?
I am doing wonderful. And we have one of our guests in the chat downstairs, Mr. Richter Riolo. Hello, Richter.
Hi. Richter.
Hi, guys.
So tonight we're going to get down to all about the Bigfoot quote-unquote massacre. And actually, if you read into this mystery, supposedly there were two massacres. One at Blue Creek involving allegedly John Green and Bob Titmus, and another one at Bluff Creek involving Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. Excuse me. So we're gonna get down to it, but due to technology barriers, we have our one of our guests on tonight, and he's going to be on phone line. Yep, not you, Victor. But on the phone line I have with us is the esteemed Mr. Tom Steinberg. Hello, Tom. How are you tonight, brother?
I'm doing just fine, sir. Doing just fine.
Well, we're glad to have you on. I know we're doing the same. We're doing the same thing we did for Bob Gimlin, because he wasn't on the computer either. So we're just going to. We're talking about this massacre thing. I don't know where you want to start. I'll let you pick it up. Whether you want to start what was going on at Blue Creek versus Bluff Creek, and I'll let you have the floor.
Roger that. Well, I can tell you how this whole thing started. Back in 2009, John Green received some rather ominous-sounding emails from the late Bobby Short. You may remember her.
Yep, we sure do. Yep.
Asking questions about saying she's gotten information that something very strange happened down at Bluff Creek around the time the film was shot, and John should come clean. And it involved M.K. Davis and David Pilates. And when we got more information from it, and of course we were in contact with the late Al Hodgson, who was also receiving emails at this time, suddenly it started coming out that there was a deep, dark secret being kept about what really happened down in Bluff Creek. Through time and more emails, and of course John was taken well aback by all of this. This crazy tinfoil hat story about a family of Sasquatch being massacred by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin and John Green and Titmus and Rennie the Hendon, and it was just mind-boggling. And when we started looking at what he was saying, and then MK started posting video clips taken from the Blue Creek Mountain footage, and we kind of blamed ourselves a little bit for this, because before all this started, MK was in rather high regard amongst us all for the great stabilization work he had actually done on the PG film before. Now, what happened is, a few weeks before any of this came out, Chris Murphy had sent to M.K. Davis a lecture film, a very bad copy of a lecture film that John Green had put together way back in the early 70s, that he had created for public speaking purposes. He made two copies, one for himself and one for Renee, and later on I managed to get a copy of it with his permission transferred onto CD for myself. Now, this lecture copy was actually 5 different film clips from 5 different films, all spliced together for public speaking purposes.
Gotcha.
You had bits of the Blue Creek Mountain footage on there. You had much of the Patterson Gimlin footage on there, and also bits of the second roll of film that Roger shot that day after they reloaded the camera, and he took shots of the tracks, and there's a couple of scenes of Roger casting one of the tracks, and another scene of him holding the 2 castings he made that day up in front of a large tree. Now, what I think happened is MK, for some reason on his head, looked at a lot of this footage and was thinking he was looking at never-before-seen parts of the Patterson Gimlin film. And he wouldn't listen to us.
Gotcha.
And then he started releasing stills from the Blue Creek Mountain footage, and it was obvious from what he was saying. It's saying, there's bodies here and flesh lying here, and you can see the the creek is all red. And he said, Bob Timmis is standing here. He was just attacked by the dog, which was named White Lady. And his hands are all red from the blood where he was skinning the Sasquatch. And it was quite obvious to us that he had altered the contrast on these stills to make the pilot's hands. The pilot was named as Keith Kazera. He was the man who flew them down there. It wasn't even Titmus, so they're all wrong about that. Titmus wasn't even there. They were misidentifying Keith Kazera as Bob Titmus, and then his hands were all red. So we got together with John and Bill Miller, and we decided to write an article exposing this whole mess. And you can still see that article. I actually published it again a year ago when someone tried to bring all this up again back then. And if you just go to my blog site and scroll down to January 9th, 2019, and look for the post, Here We Go Again, Parts 1 and 2, you can once again reread all this nonsense that I thought we had put to rest back in 2009 and later on in 2012 when someone brought all this up again. where we basically exposed what M.K. Davis had done and what he was trying to do. And I know a lot of people don't like to accuse M.K. of being a hoaxer, but as far as I am concerned, when you alter images to give a false impression to back up a story you're not 100% confident in yourself, that's hoaxing by any definition that I know. Because you can see in the much clearer version of the Blue Creek Mountain footage, which we've had and looked at a million times, the hands are not red. There's no blood in the water. John Green is not carrying a gun on his hip, and he's not carrying a large movie camera. And of course, that's what they were all saying all this time. And it was just absolute tinfoil hat nonsense. But this thing has sort of taken on a life of its own. I kind of expected it to come back after John passed away in 2016. But I can't help but wonder why so many people believe this nonsense. It just boggles my mind. And of course, the latest is this fellow who calls himself Isdahl. I mean, his video, not only does he say that he murdered a family of Sasquatch in Blue Creek Mountain, actually at the time, originally, they were almost sounding like they were saying the Blue Creek Mountain was part of the Patterson-Gimlin film. Like they had no idea they were looking at different footage. And he was not only saying they slaughtered Sasquatch that day, but then he started accusing Roger Patterson, Gimlin, Green, DeHinden of being in cahoots with 3 different federal governments trying to keep the Sasquatch a secret, and I still can't get over him bringing this up. He tried to compare him to creepy Hollywood producers who abuse women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even bringing this up, it was just utter tinfoil hat nonsense, and it still is. But so many people are buying into it. It just boggles my mind.
Now, Tom, can you tell me what you know about the confusion? They allegedly said that Bob Titmus was there, but in actuality, he wasn't there, was he?
No, not at the time. He went down a few days after the Patterson-Gimlin film was shot, and he went straight to the film site and cast 10 of the tracks. But at the time, no, he wasn't there, and he was not present during the Blue Creek Mountain tracks investigation in late August, early September of 1967. What you see there is a man named Keith Kazera, who was the pilot who flew them down, who flew Renee, Dale Moffat, the tracking dog White Lady, and John Green down in a private plane from Chilliwack to Orleans. And he didn't want to sit by his plane for a week, so they basically said, well, come along. And you can, and you see him in most of that's him you see carrying the shotgun in most of the Blue Creek Mountain footage shot by DeHinden looking at the tracks. But Bobby Short and M.K. Davis and David Pilates all got in their head that this was Bob Titmus, because to them, in profile, I guess he kind of looked at it, but ignoring the fact that Keith Kazera is 6'3.5" tall. He's almost as tall as John Green, and Titmus was a couple inches shorter than me. He was 5'6", and Titmus was in his late 40s at the time, whereas Keith Kazera was a young man at 26 years old. By the way, Keith is still alive. He lives in Medicine Hat, Alberta. So not only did we communicate with him, but we got copies of his logbook, and we published all that in the articles to prove that he was the pilot that took him down there.
Yep, in actuality, let me see if I have that, and that would be the logbook right here. I think I can get even a better...
Sweet.
There we go. So there's the actual entry for the logbook. And yes, this is the logbook, as you can see. This is the...
Now that's the flight log for the people that he took on that flight to where Bluff Creek, or
that would be Blue Creek.
Blue Creek. Okay.
Or would that be Bluff Creek, Tom?
Well, they landed somewhere close to Orleans, but they ended up going by jeep and truck to the Blue Creek Mountain sites from there.
Yeah. In this article from the Chilliwack September 1967 Chilliwack Progress article, Keith, the pilot for Kent Aviation LT, is not normally a Sasquatch hunter, but he found himself drafted for duty after flying a group of customers to Orleans. And that would be And it says, after an hour and 1.5 of drive, located about 5,000 feet above sea level, Keith Renee, publisher John Green of Agassiz, and Dale Moffat of Pitt Meadows found the footprints. And they're talking about the footprints that were found, which obviously is what they're all looking at in these pictures that we showed earlier. So,
Absolutely.
And so here's this big conspiracy built around pictures. And what I did show earlier was you can see the difference in this. Again, these are lecture copy videos. And as you can see on the left is M.K. Davis's, and you see how bright red is that Jeep.
Yeah.
Whereas you see more of a realistic representation. MK's
Right.
overcolorized, and the other one appears. And just so you know, we now have Russell is here.
Welcome, Russ.
Technology and me do not agree. Sorry, guys.
That was funny. I mean, if people who don't know, and Tom, just stand by 1 second. So I'm working on my phone while, that's why every once in a while the sound gets a little whack. It's because I'm working on my phone because Russell couldn't get on. So I'm also sitting there PMing customer support for, the StreamYard. So I'm doing all this meanwhile holding the phone.
Multitasking.
Multitasking.
Clearly not the smartest guy out of the four of us.
No, you're fine. I was like, why can't I see my guest? He goes, well, have him try signing out, refreshing, and try it again. Okay. So here we are. And Russell, just so you know, Tom Steinberg said hello.
Oh, awesome. How you doing, Tom? Thank you for joining us.
He can't hear you.
I'm batting 1,000, aren't I?
He'll hear it later, Russ, when he watches the program.
But on a lighter note, he said, Richter, go beep. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
But we're looking at these photos side by side up here, and I'm a layman. All right, I cannot do clear up or stuff on video or photos. I can take red eye out with the help of a program. That's about it. But now on M.K. Davis's copy,
I saw Richter make a face there when you said red eye.
Yeah, well, the saturation setting on M.K. Davis's copy he's got there is like, wow, man, 5,000% saturated. I can tell that even as a layman because I have made that mistake. Just makes the colors not true to life. It's like really, a brown Jeep becomes red, or a yellow Jeep. Is that yellow? I'm a little colorblind, but it's not really. Or is it faded red? I can't tell, but it really looks like blood red in the left side.
Yeah, it does.
Just making sure we're all connected here. So that was obviously this whole, a lot of this has to do with Blue Creek. So, have you ever had any interaction with Roger Patterson or Bob Gimlin in your past, Tom, that, they kind of laughed at this idea?
No. I've known Bob Gimlin for close to 30 years. We're good friends, and I've never seen anything from him that would even remotely suggest such a thing. I never met Roger Patterson. He passed away in 1972. But what I know of him, he kind of reminded me of the character I used to say on the old Green Acres television show, Mr. Haney. Everybody knew him, everybody liked him, but everybody knew, for God's sakes, don't give him any money because he probably won't get it back.
Yep.
Yeah, but no. Bob has always been straightforward and what really happened on October 20th, 1967, and I see no reason to think that he went down there and slaughtered a bunch of Sasquatch. This is just a lot of tinfoil hat nonsense. And why they're doing it, I have no idea. I guess just regular Sasquatch research has just gotten too boring for so many people, so they got to bring in tabloid excitement.
Right. Now, another thing I like to bring out, I know Bobby Short spoke a lot about, her so-called interview with Al Hodgson. And I'm going to refer back to an article that Stephen Streufert did when he actually talked to Al Hodgson about that. And in it, it says, Bobby Short seems to like you enough to quote you in her conspiracy theory stuff. And Al kind of laughed at that out loud. Al Hodgson declared that Bob Titmus was there, no doubt about it. And Al Hodgson said, I wished I hadn't said that, but I was wrong. So clearly, Hodgson realized he made a mistake when speaking with Bobby Short. And Stephen asked, did they kind of trick you? Like they just showed you a picture, said, who does that look like? And Al said, oh, yeah. And I thought they asked me who was in that print. And I said, well, it might be. I thought it might be Titmus because I thought John maybe was Titmus. I'm sorry. Yeah, John maybe was Titmus who came down with him, but it was not Titmus. It was Renee DeHinden who came down with him, but I was, and then he says, I didn't remember that. So Al changed his story, that they're using to claim, Bobby, Bobby Short elicited out of Al Hodgson that it was Bob Titmus, and Al Hodgson turned around and said, no, I was mistaken. So, and then this whole white lady thing, and that's what I don't understand, Tom. Are these conspiracy theorists trying to say that white lady tracked down the Sasquatch and took it down?
Well, they're trying to say that not only was Patty shot and killed, but her children and a few other Sasquatch were shot and killed that day too, and that they've discovered that they were more human-like than they wanted to admit, so they buried the bodies and covered it all up and basically spent the next 45 years saying we need a body or a piece of a body.
Now let's. I do have a comment that I'd like to address in the chat room. Comes from one of our listeners, Tommy John. Hello, Tommy. How are you? He said, I don't think there was a massacre, but MK did do much for the PG film. And why can't be entitled to his own opinion? MK also blocked me for no reason. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because this is not an opinion. This is being put out there as fact, and it's being put out there to, it's not an opinion. When you put out wrong evidence, bad evidence, and purposely ignore that you've made mistakes, purposely ignore the truth, and not to mention, last I knew, Bob Gimlin was still alive. So this is not an opinion. This is an accusation. And it was actually MK, and I know there was some row back in, I think, 2009, that maybe it was Bobby Short that came up with this idea. It was not. It was MK Davis. And the reason why I know, I had a good friend in 2008 going to the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, got a phone call from him and said, you're not going to believe this, and laid it out to me what MK was saying. So...
Absolutely. And Bobby Short and David Pilates were very fond of MK Davis, and he sort of convinced them, I think, in a certain way that there was something to all this. And Bobby at the time, this kind of ended the friendship I had with Bobby Short, because I don't think he ever really forgave me for exposing the pilot. Keith Gazer was the man of the footage and not Bob Titmus, because he kept saying my unnamed experts say it's Bob Titmus, and I have the feeling your unnamed experts were MK Davis and
I saw that, and the funny thing is, Pilates also used that in an email. We have unnamed experts that, these unnamed experts that have looked at the film and can confirm that was actually something, like a big movie camera on the shoulders of John Green.
Absolutely. And he also was sort of apologizing to John, saying, no, John, I never accused you of having a deep start secret, unrealizing, of course, that we were all friends with Al Hodgson, so anything you said to Al Hodgson we heard about. So we said, well, what about this email you sent to Al Hodgson? You say, I think Green and the rest of them are keeping a deep, dark secret.
Now, David very smartly has been quiet this last round about this whole massacre thing. However, one thing I can say is that Mr. Pilates is and Mr. Isdahl are friends. And apparently they had some rendezvous in Washington a month or so ago. So that could be Isdahl's lawman he's speaking that has seen this film. But anyway, on the screen now, I have this email sent on July 15, 2009 from Dave Paulides to Al Hodgson, where he says, I actually believe that John Green and Gimlin are harboring a very dark secret, really. So, and then I have the follow-up email that Mr. Paulides had written to John Green saying, John, I think you have me confused with somebody else. I never stated that you were harboring a dark secret. What? So.
Yeah, we published the article Miller and I put out. We published those. Yeah,
Yep, that's what. Yep, I'm showing folks on the screen what they those emails for you. So. So. Well, Tom, I think you've been really valuable to this. I'm going to let you go for tonight. But if anybody has any questions for Tom on the panel or anybody in chat, let's get them out now, and I can relay them.
I think Tom did an excellent job of covering everything I could think of.
To me, I just don't understand why they would assume that a mild-mannered gentleman like the late John Green, and a bad-tempered Swiss immigrant named Ready to Hit, and I knew these men both very well, were suddenly super assassins who went down from Canada for the purpose of massacring the Sasquatch on behalf of the U.S. government so they don't become an annoyance to logging and other forestry operations. I mean, it's just well, it's for the Brigade of the Tin Hat crowd, the tinfoil. That's the only way to describe it. Yeah, but there's just a lot of gullible people out there who just want to believe in anything.
Yep, exactly. And I guess, when you think about it, they set out to destroy anybody that had any reverence in the field of Sasquatch, because a lot of people respected John Green, Bob Gimlin, Renee DeHinden, the whole group, and it seemed like that they went on a mission to destroy these people's reputations. So.
Absolutely, and I kind of wonder about MK, because since 2009, I understand that I've seen him on YouTube. He's gone down to the Bluff Creek film site talking about the film and the circumstances around the film as though the massacre had never happened. I'm looking at this footage and saying, MK, what are you doing down there? According to you, there's Sasquatch things all over the place. I mean, yeah, but you don't even bring that up. I mean, just weird. I just don't get it.
Yep. And some folks have asked questions or have made comments in the chat, like John Coppers and now one from Tommy John. We're going to be covering some of those topics as we fast forward through the show. There was one comment made about, Mr. Carpenter, how can he think that they're slaughtered if they're demons and Nephilim? We're going to get to that, because I didn't realize he thought that as well. But I asked the same of that of Mr. How Not to Hunt Bigfoot as well, Mr. Isdahl. And then Tommy John said something, if we asked that Mr. Isdahl, do you think Mr. Isdahl is a bully? And we're going to show you just how much of a bully he is. So stay tuned for that.
I'm not even sure How to Hunt even believes it himself. I think he's just trying to generate, make his YouTube site pay.
Well, I agree. I think some of it has a lot to do about, self-promotion and trying to make a name for themselves. And it's,
absolutely.
And I think it's really sad, because 20 years ago when I got involved in this, MK was very well respected. We have a question from Ryan Reading asking about the bullet hole in the leg of Patty, and what's your perspective on that, if you have one?
There is no hole in the leg of Patty, yeah.
I agree.
There's a hole there that sort of pops out that was, for a while, thought to be a sort of hernia-type image, but there's no bullet hole in Patty.
Right. And one would think that during the walk, Patty would break stride, limp off. How come the strides were the same? It's quite, to me, it's quite comical.
and remember, MK was looking at little, imperfections in copies of the film and trying to say they were gun flashes. So,
and
Yep.
and I think you and I talked about this the other day, Tom, is how disingenuous. It seems like MK Davis has gone to the Bluff Creek site, a few times now, and is always there for selfies. But has he once ever taken a metal detector? If there's a massacre, there's got to be cartridges somewhere.
Well, I'm sure there are cartridges around Bluff Creek. Like I'm sure there are cartridges around almost every forest creek in Northern California, because a lot of guys go out shooting at tin cans, shooting at trees, hunting season, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and Tactical Bigfoot Research, who happens to be in law enforcement, makes a very good comment too. Blood at the wound site. This alleged shot takes place. Why don't we see any rust-colored stuff on the wound, on the area around the wound?
Yeah, and one other thing MK said, at one point there was a little pool of water in his copy of the Blue Creek Mountain footage, and you see Dale Moffat walking White Lady through it, and MK trying to see that's a dog taking a sniff of the discarded flesh and everything from a dead Sasquatch. And again, he changed the contrast to make the pool of water look red. But if you look in the untempered copy of the Blue Creek Mountain footage, it's just water, and you even see the dog's reflection in it when he walks by.
Yep, exactly. So we are, Tom. If there's any more questions for Tom, I'm gonna have him enjoy the rest of his evening. And Richter's waving bye-bye.
Roger that, sir.
All right, thank you, Tom, for calling in.
Thank you, Tom.
No problem, man.
Thanks, Tom.
And everybody in the panel's thanking you. Have a good night, sir.
Hey, Steve, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Shouldn't Ryan Reading have rephrased his question? Does Bob Hieronymus walk with a limp now?
Now, Richter, let's not discuss.
Let's ask that question.
Well, I've watched that video where MK talking about that when that bulge comes out of Patty's legs, just right there. She's shot right there. Okay, well, I also saw the film when JFK was shot, and when he got shot, blood went, flew out. I didn't see that. Where was the blood? Did it go in? I don't know.
Okay, and so let's take a look at this alleged pool of blood. Here's the alleged pool of blood.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh.
And let me.
Oh, there's the baby.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the real picture.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's take a look at the real picture. That's not blood, that's mud. So, and I do want to make another observation as well. When blood has been sitting a while, it looks like this. And, this is an actual crime scene photo, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blood is black.
Black. Yep.
Ooh.
So it doesn't look brown, doesn't look rust, it's black.
Ooh.
So, because what happens is that the iron in the hemoglobin eventually just burns up. Starts at rust color, but then it turns to black relatively quickly. So there are a couple of things I'd like to bring up, but let's get to our guest tonight real quick too, and say hello to Richter and Russ. And so Richter, what's your take on all of this?
I think it's the crazy farm. The inmates at Bellevue have taken over the asylum. And I'm going to bring this back to point zero. This is not my personal belief. I'm just talking about the easiest explanation tends to be the right one. Occam's razor. There's no Bigfoot. Now, despite this, I'm sorry that goes against all of it. We think Bigfoot's real, but at the end of the day, the whole world as one doesn't think Bigfoot's real. So that's the easiest explanation. So if Bigfoot's not real, and there was never a Bigfoot filmed at Bluff Creek in 1967, therefore there was no massacre at Bluff Creek in 1967. So it makes these idiots out to be even more foolish and deranged than they actually are. Their next door neighbors, if they knew these people were saying these things, would probably be very concerned. right?
Yeah.
And to know that they have dedicated followers who will happily go and harm and harass an old 89-year-old man over something as stupid as this, give me a break.
Richter, I
don't even want to tell my friends outside of the Bigfoot world what is going on here, because it's like they're going to judge me like, you're a part of this? You still think Bigfoot's real after all this freaking nonsense? There's no blood. There's no Bigfoot slaughter. That's a man in a suit. That's what the world says, and you guys know this. You have relatives and friends who aren't Bigfooters. Unless you guys are all in the closet with Bigfoot. Now, I know Russell is not in the closet with Bigfoot. He's been on TV. Steve Kulls has been on TV. We put ourselves out there, and we're scrutinized over Bigfoot. If they knew about this massacre theory, oh my God.
And we know Bennett just puts a new Porsche in his wife's garage every time he goes out Bigfooting.
Oh, yeah. That's right, man.
It's embarrassing. That's my take on it as Bigfoot researchers, despite if you're a skeptic or a believer. This is like, what? What?
Yep.
I mean, the Bigfoot pays money a lot. People don't realize this, but it causes a lot of stress at home, Because I'm always walking through the rooms of the house, kicking the floor. Get all this money out of the floor. God.
Russell, you have a family. Would you allow some kind of a murderer, a conspirator, someone that's out to do terrible harm like Bob Gimlin into your home? Would you do that?
Oh, no.
You've served in our military. You can spot a bad person a mile away, right?
I would hope, yes.
Thank you. There should be no further discussion on this. Unfortunately, we have to, because these people like MK and Paulides and Scott Carpenter have now enlisted the help of Steve Isdahl, who has a tremendous air horn because of his base of hunters with over 122,000 subscribers. This is how things have changed now. They now have someone who has a huge, tremendous following to perpetuate their BS. And this is very concerning because at the end of the day, it's not going to affect Dr. Jeff Meldrum. It's going to affect Bob Gimlin because idiots like Daniel Perez puts his address out on the internet for people to harass Bob Gimlin. That's wrong. Okay, I've said my piece. I'm triggered. I'm going to get back to my drink.
Russell, I'll let you hit yourself up with an opening statement on this cockamamie stuff.
Steve, how do you follow a rant like that? Holy crap.
I know. I was trying to have Russell go first, but I could see Richter on the edge of his chair. If he didn't say something soon, that chair was just going to go out from underneath him.
It was going to blow. Realistically, I'm watching this thing play out, and believe it or not, I could care less what MK Davis contrives up in his head. I could care less about the stand-up comic in Canada or the law enforcement guy that takes himself entirely too seriously, or the dude that goes to conferences and shakes Bob's hand and acts like his best friend one month and turns as just a vile person the next month. The thing is, if you want to tell a bunch of BS, have at it. I could care less until it bothers or affects somebody like Bob Gimlin. The guy is 88 years old. They're picking on a guy that is, how tough do you got to be, really, to pick on people that are no longer living? And the last one is 88 years old, and he's about the kindest gentleman you'll ever meet. And what is he going to do? Bow up and get, fist fight these guys? Because that seems to be the theme for the one in Canada. But it's just sad. I mean, if you have a life, the last thing you do is stuff like this. When you don't have a life and you're stuck in quarantine and you start watching these, hello, everybody, it's me again. I'm here to talk about Patty. Christ, get a life.
Richter's head's going to explode again.
No, I'm agreeing. I mean, Russell is hitting the ball out of the park. Keep going.
I just want to see. I love being on the show. I love doing research. I've been doing it since the late 70s. And I'm not going to come in front of you guys and say, look, here's my footprint. Here's my proof, until I have something so profound. But until then, I love being out in the woods. I love doing my research. I love some of the people that I've met have been just astronomical to work with. Great people. And that's what I want to get back to. This bickering high school bullcrap is absolutely senseless. It's juvenile. It's ridiculous.
Right.
I just want to see Bob be shown a little respect and not pick on somebody who's been laid to rest already and start saying bad things about somebody who's already gone and cannot defend himself. It's embarrassing.
Yep.
So I watch this stuff play out. I try to be as diplomatic and as kind as I can. I talk to Bob and his wife a lot. And the last time I talked to his wife, because she's seeing the things that are coming across the mail and the internet and the unkind things that are coming Bob's way. And I told her, look, Judy, I have to handle this diplomatically. I can't get all bowed up and get really, really vile and nasty like them. I'm not going to go to that eye level with them, but I'm starting to get a little frustrated. And the last thing she told me is stop being so nice. Mm-hmm. But I still, trust me, I wish I could be that guy. I wish I could. I have a background that just doesn't put up with crap from anybody. And this is a whole new side of me to be nice about things, but I think it's the better way. I think it's just the kinder, more mature way to handle this thing.
Do you want to see Richter being nice?
No one wants to see that.
Has anybody seen that?
No.
You know what?
This is Richter being nice. This is Richter being nice.
Steve Isdahl on how to hunt Bigfoot.
That's all right. We just had to flash that across. Yeah, but here's the thing, and Russ, you have some law enforcement background to you, military background. So my thing is, if you look at the post-incident behavior, if there was a massacre that occurred during the Patterson-Gimlin film, and Roger Patterson needed to make money on this, because everybody's saying, oh, that Roger, even Tom Steinberg said he had this reputation of, if you're going to loan him money, you're not going to see it again, that kind of thing. Okay. Well, if Roger Patterson wanted to make money, why would he come out with a film and not just drag out a body? It makes no sense. You have it right here. Yeah. You've proven it. Your name will get stamped for proving it. Right. But instead he brings this film, which everybody questions. See, that's why the massacre didn't happen. It does. The post-incident behavior does not make sense, according to this theory.
Right.
So, and that's the short of it. Now, the long of it is exactly who is, and I'm going to start showing. I have like an 8-slide slideshow. I want you guys to digest this, and then I got something else too. But first, we have the Bigfoot Massacre debunked, and we got to understand the players involved with this. Okay, and right now there's 3 major proponents. David Pilates has kind of sat this one out, and of course Bobby Short, she has to sit this one out. But anyway, we have MK Davis, Scott Carpenter, and the new guy, Steve Isdahl, on How Not to Hunt Bigfoot. So if we look at MK's work, okay, he's been promoting hoaxed videos for the better part of the last decade. The Mike Sells videos, who passed in 2008, that's his primary stuff for doing reviews on. Okay, has confirmation bias in what he believes. There's no doubt that he sees a Bigfoot, or he sees something on it, it's got to be a Bigfoot. He removes, and we have remarks, and people were saying that in the chat too, he removes comments questioning his analysis. Yeah. Instead of taking it on. There's a difference. I remove stuff that's smarmy or insulting, that goes. If you got a question on how I do something, I'll gladly rebut you. But him, you just question it, it gets pulled off. And then he believes that Ivan Marx now has something to do with the massacre. Of all people, Ivan Marx. So below is a couple of examples of people complaining about MK deleting comments. So what people are saying in chat has already been verified by my research. So let's look at the commonality. Marx ties MK Davis ties, and this is a Facebook post from somebody. That I'm not on MK's Facebook, but somebody is that knows me. It says MK Davis ties Ivan Marx to the Bluff Creek Massacre and shows the rifle owned by Ivan Marx and allegedly used to kill, of all things, the Minnesota Iceman. And then he says at a 30-minute mark, you can see the Iceman being shot and dropping on Marx's film. That is the same film that was in this famous news thing that went out back in the mid-'70s that said, here's Ivan Marx, camera in one hand, gun in the other, shooting a Bigfoot. And then you see, this guy in a suit falling down, stumbling like an idiot. So, and again, he's promoting. So what, funny thing is the Biscardi-Ivan Marx connection is tied directly to MK Davis, who seems to be promoting everything they do. What's that? Common denominator are hoaxes. This is the guy that is so revered by these people that MK has done such a great job, but look what he's promoting. These crazy theories. Last I knew, the Minnesota Iceman was a hoax. In fact, I believe it's in Texas right now on display.
Yeah, it went up for sale on eBay in 2013, I think it was. I was going to buy that. And when I was, no joke, I was going to buy it. When I was figuring out how I was going to explain this to my wife, it sold. Somebody sent him a best offer or something, and it turned out to be the guy in Museum of Hoaxes in Texas, and I can't remember the name of the city, but yeah, it's in Texas now.
Now, Chris, I know what you're going to do with the Iceman. You were going to prop him up with a lawnmower. And your wife would think you're mowing the lawn, and you're going to be in the back room watching TV. I got it.
Oh, man. No, I went to see that when I was a kid, and I know this is a whole other show, but I went to see the Iceman when I was a kid, and it was a little bit stinky. I remember it. And, I come to find out, I was reading on one of the skeptic forums, and they had some inside information, supposedly, that they had used decaying dog flesh to make the stink, Yep. Well, it smelled kind of fishy to me, but, it could have been a dog. I don't know.
Well, truthfully, the Georgia Bigfoot body kind of smelled kind of fishy, but it stunk very similarly. They all.
Yeah.
I've smelled that thing, too, and that was put together with animal parts as well.
Yeah.
So let's look at the next cat in the game, Scott Carpenter. Now, Scott, this is Scott Carpenter. He has a video camera and a feather. Funny how his best photographic evidence is selfies with Bigfoots. Stumps and pareidolia. No videos, no follow-up, no tracks. You turn your back on a Sasquatch, smells like a hoaxer to me. I mean, anytime you have somebody promoting that kind of stuff, especially the one in the center. Go ahead, Ross.
Do you realize that he actually makes the claim that he came up with the idea of putting a GoPro on his back to catch things that are behind me when he's cruising around? Now, I hate to say it, but I know that I've heard about GoPros and filming behind the vehicle or behind you on your backpack quite a few years ago, not just this last year and a half when he brought that out. So just a little point of clarification. I hate it when somebody takes credit for somebody else's stuff.
And looks like Richter wants something to say something.
No, this might be perceived as mean, but if anybody's cross-eyed and saying they see Bigfoot all the time, there's a reason for it.
And promoting it like you're supposed to be these people are supposed to be these magnificent bastions of research, yet this is the best you got. There you are with a video camera. How come we only get these still shots?
And yet this MFer says he doesn't have a dog in the fight, yet he's making a video about it. What a hypocrite. Shut the F up.
And you know what? Instead of using your camera or your phone to take a picture of a Bigfoot with you in it, why don't you just turn that GoPro on your back, and that would really tell you whether or not that's well, wait a minute. It doesn't look like he's wearing a GoPro on his back.
Oh.
So that's proponent number 2. Now we get to this guy.
Music, please.
Oh, I have to take the earrings off for this one.
Yeah. Do you have circus music?
Yeah, exactly. So let's look at. Okay, so since he's made the following allegations, Dr. Meldrum and others know the truth about Bigfoot, but get paid to espouse a phony theory about Bigfoot being a primate.
Wow.
Bigfoot is demonic and supernatural. Oh, also a Scott Carpenter theory that they're Nephilim. The Bigfoot, the M.K. Davis massacre theory is true, and then has made inferences that Bobby Short was murdered. Murdered! And, as far as the penchant for cyberbullying, there's a couple of examples.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it there. It's horrible what he writes. You should probably stay offline. A reckoning is coming. You keep watching The Guilty Sweat. If you read my blog post from last week, there is a couple of examples of Mr. Isdahl actually threatening people that are animal rights people. And, again, he says, I'm going to make them, scared or whatever. So, again, if Bigfoot is demonic, supernatural, how were they killed? Were they killed with holy water, with silver bullets, a proton pack? Hell, I even thought about, they came up with this one today, too. Maybe it was 5G. Maybe it was 5G that killed.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's a stretch. I know it's 1967, but 5G may have been around.
Sprinkle them with holy water.
And the government was just covering it up the whole time. So if we think he's innocent about stuff, but Mr. Isdahl has hoaxed as well. So here is a 2019 post of him posting a Mark Anders photo alongside a print in snow. And then kind of inferring, and this caused a lot of... and Russ, I know I don't want you to get your glasses here. There you go. I see you leaning in going, what does that say? So, yeah, he has posted this. He has posted this on his Instagram with no explanation. I find it very disingenuous. Not only does he post the Mark Anders picture, but he puts this snow print next to it, kind of inferring that it's his. And then there's posts on his page, the Pro Guide 66 page, that says, "Is this yours? Oh my God, you've made it to Georgia," and all these other things. He doesn't answer one. He just lets it go. That's hoaxing by inference, folks.
Yeah.
And hoaxing by omission.
Yeah.
If I put a picture up of a Bigfoot on my page today, knowing that I'm a Bigfoot researcher, and I start asking these kind of questions, you go to your secret area. And you find this, what do you do? 90% of the people there are going to think that's my picture.
Yeah.
I'm curious about a comment that's made here. It's still on there. It says, Aldo Gonzalez, I cannot believe the character assassinations going on here. And I'm not seeing, I don't get that. Basically,
hold on, Aldo. Character assassination. You see, are you somebody that's a sympathizer? Are you somebody that, can't see the truth? Are you in such man love with these three guys? Because what I'm pointing out is fact. The fact that M.K. Davis is promoting hoax videos for the last better part of the decade. The fact that Isdahl hoaxed. The fact that Scott Carpenter puts out selfies with Bigfoot with no real investigation. Aldo, if you want to be a Bigfooter, I suggest you smarten up about things.
Hey, anybody with the name Aldo doesn't deserve my time.
Come on now. I like the name Aldo. Remember Aldo Nova?
He's one consonant short of...
And perhaps, Aldo, did you miss the whole section earlier of how they kind of made this whole thing up from wrong assumptions? Did you miss that part? And did you miss that part that they're kind of refusing to accept they were wrong? I mean, I don't know. And I understand, Amy, that he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing character assassination.
Nope.
What is character assassination?
Untrue.
Right.
We're exposing fact.
This is fact.
Right.
This is fact.
Yeah.
And you know,
And you see, when somebody now, Ron, don't take this the wrong way, and a few other people, that when you say you have to have character first in order to assassinate it, see, that's character assassination. Unfortunately,
That was good.
that was good. Yeah, I agree, it was good.
and let me throw this in, Steve, because I can see where they're coming from here. But you know, I was in MK's corner as far as giving him credit for his early versions of clarification that he did on the Patterson-Gimlin stabilizations of the film.
Yep.
And I think he has done some work that was really good, and I give him credit for that.
Agreed.
But
see, but none of
when it
that
starts-
helps prove the massacre
Right.
theory did not happen.
Exactly.
He's got a good point. He's got a good point. The one thing.
Here I kind of look at it this way, Russ.
Yeah.
And although you have to look at it from this aspect, and this comes from somebody that's been doing this for 20 years. When Rick Dyer came out in 2008 with a Bigfoot body that was fake, all of a sudden we're supposed to believe him in 2012 like a lot of fools did. And guess what? It was fake. I didn't need a brain to figure out that it was fake. I didn't need a brain to figure out what they're about. They're disingenuous. How can Scott Carpenter, how can Steve Isdahl be involved? How can they say this Bigfoot was massacred when Bigfoot's supernatural or Nephilim or demonic? Because they can't be killed. You can't go on and preach and preach and preach how Bigfoot's supernatural and we know nothing about this. Yet we're expected to believe a bunch of amateurs killed a family of them? Well, which is it? You're disingenuous. And to me, you're jumping on a bandwagon for clicks, or you're just plain dumb. You lack common sense. Hate to say it.
You're triggered.
Hate to say it.
I love it. I
And
love angry Kulls.
I'm not talking about you, Aldo. I'm talking about people that try to think that they're going to pull the wool over somebody with half a brain to think that you for the last how many months, years you've been espousing these things are supernatural, and you expect us now to believe in 1967 a whole bunch of them was killed by a bunch of amateurs? Like Renee DeHinden and John Green and Bob Titmus and Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin? Oh, yeah, they're special forces. They're able to kill the supernatural Bigfoot. Not one massacre, but two.
I love angry Kulls. Oh, you're great. Oh, you're great.
Yeah.
The one point that Aldo did make is that it's not when we are talking about the character reference Scott and Steve and Paulides, we're really not proving that the massacre didn't happen. He's right. We're actually showing on your site here what they are saying and what they're doing, which is really despicable. But as far as the massacre theory goes, the film the messed up film, the allegations that's proof that the massacre didn't happen. That's actually the topic here.
I agree. And the one thing I'm putting this stuff out here, Aldo, and please don't take my passion for being angry with you or anything like that. It's totally not like that. But the reason why this is not character assassination isn't to show people, they hold these guys in high esteem. And this is the stuff they've been putting out. Have we lowered the bar so badly? And Victor's shaking his head. Yep. Have we lowered the bar where a selfie with a Bigfoot with no investigation? Oh, that's amazing. Or how about a guy that talks about Bigfoot with some nice, pretty scenery behind him all the time, yet never once see him investigating a Bigfoot or finding a track?
But he's close to a computer all the time to argue with everybody. That's not out in the woods.
Hey, Steve, do you by chance have any of his quotes that he's used in these videos about getting these people like Bob Gimlin?
I have not, but perhaps you do, Richter.
Oh, I certainly do. He says he's pretty much talking to Bob Gimlin because Bob Gimlin's the only man alive that was there in 1967 that we know of. He says, there is a group of people coming. He then pauses and then continues. They're coming for the truth. All right, that's not too ominous. But then he says to his followers, if you want to get this off your chest and deliver it the way you want to deliver it, that's fine. We'll appreciate your example. The pain is going to be a little bit more for you with what you have lied about. What the fuck is that?
I agree.
Steve Isdahl, you've gone too far. He's crossed a line here.
And Tommy says, and Russ, you're going to laugh at this. We need to have a show with Scott Carpenter, Steve Isdahl, M.K. Davis, Bob Gimlin to have a civil debate. What's there to debate? What's there to debate? These guys have this elaborate theory, MK and Bob, who only was with Roger Patterson that day, really, or that trip. No, none of it happened. You know what? Tune into the blog video I did a couple of weeks ago where Bob came on with, thanks to Russell, and said, hey, guess what? I don't know what MK's doing. None of that happened. Period.
There was a challenge that Bob made quite a while back. I think he was actually telling me about it, that he told MK, he said, I welcome you to bring any evidence you want to and take me to court because I know there's no such evidence. I know that there's nothing. I'll be happy to go to court with you because, and MK, he clammed up for a little while because seriously, if you've got no smoking gun, nothing to show, just whatever's going on in your head, you just want people to believe the words coming out of your mouth. That's not proof.
Yeah.
And Bob is comfortable knowing that there's nothing to worry about.
Right on. So,
nothing to defend.
And let's face it, for those who don't know, I challenged Isdahl back in December to come on the show to talk about Bigfoot not being a primate. That was met with silence. Just like the questions on that screen you see right in front of you there. Right? He's all talk. All talk. MK is removing questions on his pages about some of this stuff. Why do you think, although Tommy, it's a great idea, it'd be kind of fun, but I wouldn't want to put Bob against three people. You know, if Bob wants to do it, I'll sit next to him. I'll sit next to him.
Right.
And Russell will sit next. I'm sure Richter will too.
Oh, you have to hold me back.
keep your hands to yourself, Richter. You know, my point being is that, you know, Bob doesn't get into the minutia of who these people are. And that's the beauty of Bob. You know, even Bob, you know, doesn't speak ill of M.K. Davis. You know, Bob and his thing is like, I really don't know what got into M.K. Well, he's not even speculating the motive behind stuff like that. Like, and that's, you know,
Bob Gimlin has character.
right.
These men do not.
That's right. MK always runs and hides. That's from Amy. Thank you, Amy. Grasshopper writes, Rick Knoll did not give that film to be copied, and it got into Mr. MK's hands. So very, very interesting comments we're getting. But the final thing about this is who's presenting your Bigfoot Massacre. You know, a guy who promotes hoaxes, a guy who hoaxes, or at least has a lot of pictures that, you know, are questionable at best. And then you have a guy who is out for clickbait by promoting all kinds of disingenuous ideas. And the reason why, Ron said you stole his line, Richter.
I've noticed that the hoaxer on the right of the screen, he always makes reference to there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's just all about, you know, and promoting, self-promoting and that sort of thing. Even if it's bad, it's still getting him clicks, which is the worst thing that could happen. Once people start bickering and arguing about it,
right,
everybody's watching the video to see what he's mouthing off about now.
And Aldo, I'm glad you hung in there. I didn't mean to really try to beat you up there. I apologize for that if I sounded brash. I'm just passionate about, you know, Bob Gimlin, and this is not character assassination. This is who's presenting this material.
Although I can answer your question. Although there is a road that goes down very close to the film site itself, and then you have to park the car, and there's a trail that goes down. The Bluff Creek Project has done a really good job clearing that up and making it to where you can actually get down and into that area. But I will tell you that since 1967 to now, it looks vastly different than what it did back then. It's all overgrown with trees. I mean, big trees. So it won't look the same as what you're seeing in that footage. But yeah, you can still get down there. And I would say contact the Bluff Creek Project on Facebook and see if somebody can't. If you get close, they'll take you down. I'd be happy to, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, that road back in '67, was it pretty well established then? Do we know?
It was a logging road. They were clearing and getting ready to cut in a road. My understanding, I wasn't there either.
Yeah, I was like. Now, and again, my big question, as I had said to Tom, was you see MK taking all this opportunity over the years to take selfies at Bluff Creek, never once, taking a metal detector with him, anything like that. I mean, to me, it's disingenuous. It totally is disingenuous.
Well, if he feels that the bodies are still there, I mean, go dig them up, man. Become a multimillionaire overnight. Because I promise you, if you had bodies, all it takes is one, even just a piece of a body, and you will be a multimillionaire overnight.
Easily.
Now, Mr. Coppers, I happen to like Diet Peach Snapple. Oh, Mr. Stroyford's in town.
Hey, Steve.
Oh, there goes the neighborhood.
Okay, yeah, good question, Aldo. Good question.
Yep. The road is overgrown now, Aldo. They have actually put a berm in front of it down to a certain point. Then you have to actually go on foot from there, and it's a little bit of a hike. But I took Bob down there last year.
Here we go.
Yeah, Steven said it didn't even exist in '67. Yeah.
So that logging road did not exist in '67.
Yeah. Well, the road that's there now, maybe, that didn't exist in '67.
Wow. Yep. So anyway, would you guys like to take a look at some of the MK Davis work?
Please. Wait a minute. Oh, go ahead. I'll be right back, Steve. You go right ahead.
I'm going to show this video real quick for folks. Give us a chance to reconstitute and breathe for a minute. This is a 2-minute video on the fence climber video that MK has loved to promote over the last more than several years. And this video came from a gentleman by the name of Mike Sells. I've met Mike Sells. I know I've read some reports about he's 6'3". He's actually probably about 6'5". When I met him, he led us down to an area where we found a bunch of Bigfoot tracks, which looked very, very suspect. The toes were narrow. In fact, there was one where the feet were standing together, which doesn't make any sense. So anyway, we're going to get to this video. Here we go. So give me 1 second to get everybody muted, and we'll be off and running. Okay, folks, the break is over. So,
That's some good stuff.
sure is.
That X-ray is really the way to go. I mean, that really showed a different color on the guy was wearing a jacket or something. You know.
Hey, who's the tinfoil hats? Why weren't me and Russell invited to be a part of that?
Oh, wait a minute. We're done with the videos. I'm going to take mine off now since we're done watching.
I am not. I'm leaving mine on.
Oh, okay.
I'm leaving mine on.
Well, I had to fit mine before we started watching those videos because with all those rays coming through, you know, I was afraid there would be some 5G, you know.
Well, you know, I just don't want the Bigfoot.
The Night King is here.
The Night King, yes, that's right.
Oh, Arya.
Anyway, let me take the tinfoil hat off. Woo.
So the videos,
it gets hot under that thing.
The stabilization and stuff you did on those videos, Steve, was a little bit better quality than what MK was showing. And I wonder why that is. Because if you stabilize it, you can see the cuff link or the leg cuff or what.
Why do you think, Victor? You kind of clapped at that one. Why do you think that MK's, you know, looks a little grainier and a little less discernible? Na, 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 na. Victor, are you speechless? Is Victor actually friggin' speechless? This has got to be a first, and we got it on video. Well, yeah, and you see that's my point. When you purposely put stuff out and turn around and you know you put a very low quality video out there when I did it with my stuff, and MK is supposed to be this, you know, this all not, you know, this be all video, you know, analyzer, and yet my you know how long? You know when I started doing that enhancement? Today.
It
took me an hour to do all of that. So in an hour, I got a better video than NK has had in years. So I think there's a reason for that. And you see, and this is not character assassination. This is to open people's eyes. Because people like to claim things that they're not. And truthfully, what was MK before all this? He was an amateur astronomer, I believe. He was not a video guy. You want to talk video guy? You go to Bill Mons.
Oh, yeah. The king.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
My question is, Steven Stewart made a comment here just a little bit ago. He said that, let me scroll back. I believe he said that in 1967, I can't find it, but it was just shortly a little bit ago, in 1967, that there was a road that went all the way down to the film site. If there's a road that goes all the way down to the film site, why would you bury a bunch of dead Bigfoot when you can just throw them in the back of a truck and ship them somewhere safe and secure? I don't know. I just have to go with, I know he's done a lot of research. I'm not going to question. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Yep. 67 gravel plowed road alongside the creek. You could actually drive up to the film site. So why would you have that be a burial grounds? I mean, you have access. You could bring a vehicle down there and take every single piece of evidence. Why would you leave even so much as blood behind?
Right.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Again, post-incident behavior. If you want to hide the bodies, are you going to put them next to a road? Hell no. You're going to stick them in the woods. You're going to bury them deep.
Common sense.
Yeah. See, this is why these guys wouldn't make it as a real-world investigator. It just wouldn't happen. And the reason being is that they are taking this wild idea. I mean, Okay. Oh, look, that looks like blood. Let me go investigate this whole theory that maybe there was a massacre. You can't tell me that they spun the ground running with the massacre theory in mind, and that is crazy. So, off of film analysis, and a very abject type of assumption.
Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, must be a camel. That's hysterical.
That's right. That would be the way M.K. Davis thinks.
Well, you know, there was another video that MK did, and I saw somebody mention it earlier in the chat. That just the color. I think they were thinking about the color saturation. That doesn't explain the length of shadows, the short shadows. And to me, I'm thinking the time of day explains the length of the shadow, not the time of the year. Because when you get like around lunchtime, you're going to have a short shadow. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is.
Something to Sasquatch about. And welcome. I think this is the first time we're actually seeing something to Sasquatch about in. Well, hello and welcome. And,
that's a great comment by Amy Boo.
Yeah, I think MK got in his oversight. He enjoyed the attention as conspiracy as that when it was him spouting them off. I tend to bet that he doesn't like these new guys are bringing out and taking away some of the glory. Maybe not. I don't know. All I do know is that they're pointing to him. I mean, heck, if people are espousing, things that I do in a good way, I wouldn't care. I don't think I would care because eventually they're going to come to me. So I think he really, if you follow the way people think, they like the attention. So if he's under that, people, you can't say that MK likes attention and then not like people talking about him, I suppose. That's the point I'm trying to bring out of that. We have a ton of comments here coming in all over.
Yeah, I can't even keep up with them. There's a lot of good questions going on, or a lot of information.
So
wow.
Aldo says short shadows only happen in summer months. You can have long shadows all year round. I don't know.
No. The only possible argument you could make is if you had a shadow was taken at a certain time of day, a certain month, and then you went 6 months later, that exact same time of day, and took another picture. It would be different, right? But if it's during the same day, it doesn't matter what month of the year. A picture taken at 12 o'clock is going to be shorter than one taken at 1 o'clock.
So our good buddy Grasshopper. What about the other film that Bobby Short says she watched, which had the shots of the Sasquatch being shot? Well, what I believe they're talking about is some of the Blue Creek film reel you see that Thomas Steinberg had talked about it earlier.
That's the one with the red hole. Is that what they're talking about?
Well, yeah, the red hole, which we've seen the enhanced, but
right, the saturation was off.
We're also talking about, I think, somebody, because of Mr. MK now bringing Ivan Marx into this. I think MK has. I think they actually may be referring to the Ivan Marx film of one being shot. And maybe somehow that got spliced into the Blue Creek video that, some people were showing around. Because that's what it sounds like to me. That if people, here's the issue I have. Yep, get the head on, because here we go. Here's the issue I have. So we're trying to espouse a particular theory, and MK first splashes out all these videos about Blue Creek and Bob Titmus and John Green, which turns out to be the wrong, which turns out it's not Bob Titmus, it's this pilot and his friend and the dog. And then we turn around and we have the Patterson Gimlin film, and somewhere in between there is these shootings. So I just don't get how they're getting to that point. It's so inconceivable to me. You know, so I think what happened is somewhere in their pile of film, somebody could have put in the Ivan Marx film and said, see, there's Patterson shooting one. And I think that's what spun it. That's what they're using to convince some of these other people. Whether it be Polites, whether it be Scott Carpenter, whether it be, I think that's what he's doing. I hate to say it. Because he's the one who put the Marx film out there and said, I believe Ivan Marx was part of this.
Right.
So what they're really looking at is the Ivan Marx film.
Well, you know, the thing I think we're going to notice, Steve, is that as this other footage gets debunked, they're going to start getting desperate and they're going to start reaching out. Okay, let's pull this other guy into it. So now we can muddy the water a little bit and say, well, no, that was debunked, but this is the new guy.
Well, we all know, and I don't know.
Oh, man.
I don't know if Richter has been around long enough to know. I don't know if Russell, when did you get involved in this crazy business?
In the Bigfoot business?
Yeah.
70s.
Okay, so
But
you
publicly with your books, remember?
Okay, yeah. Because I thought Russell was around.
Russell's an author.
Right. So my thought pattern is, how did we try to get our theories across in the late 90s, early 2000s, before all the social media where you could appeal to thousands of people? You went around and you politicked to other bigger name researchers, like a Bobby Short, like a Lauren Coleman, like a Craig Woolheater, who was doing a lot of writing at the time. People were watching their blogs and watching their websites. That's how you get that business going. So if M.K. Davis took his little splice film and went to Bobby Short and said, look at this. Let's face it, Bobby Short was not a young woman. It was rumored she was in her 50s. She wasn't. She was born in 1936. She's a year younger than my mother was. So she wasn't a young woman by any means. And everybody knows, and it's just a fact of life, that sometimes when you get older, you get a little bit more gullible. That's why you need to take care of mom and dad and make sure, you know, they're not getting a call from Prince of Nigeria trying to get their savings. You know, so it's not too hard to convince somebody that's starting to lose their faculties. Not at all. And unfortunately, that's what happens when you get to that age sometimes, for some people.
Plus, it was also a very trusting generation.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have, you know, people like William Shatner who are, you know, in their late 80s and still going, or Bob Gimlin for that matter, that just has all his faculties. But some people aren't like that. You know, my mom wasn't. My mom passed at 78, and she was losing the last couple of years of her life.
And it's very possible that as Bigfoot researchers especially get older, you know, they realize there's more summers behind them than there are in front of them. They start getting desperate if they've not had a sighting. I mean, I read, and I can't remember what book it was in, but there were reports that Grover Krantz would go out driving at night, drive back roads with a high-powered rifle.
Yep.
Now, would Grover have shot one? Sure, he would have. I'm certain he would have, but evidently he never got that option.
Right. So, Russ, there was a question there about Polites about the massacre. Yeah, Polites has been really quiet this time around. And I don't really want to stir that hornet's nest up, but back in in 2009, Polites was really big at, you know, talking to a lot of people, trying to, quote unquote, get to the truth like a detective. I think he's backed off that a bit. I may be wrong, but it's true. When you don't really have any true answers as an investigator, as a professional investigator, you don't say much. You know, and now you have people arguing that Ivan Marx was part of the massacre theory. That, well, you know, it would make sense if you think about it, because Ivan Marx was hanging with those guys that time frame. You know, he didn't start messing around with Peter Byrne until I think it was 71 when article in Colville, the Colville paper that came out and said, hey, with Peter Burns saying, hey, this guy Ivan Marx is trying to hoax us with this, trying to get $25,000 of this with this film, with this Bigfoot with the junk and the big ears and the big head.
Right.
And no neck. So yeah. And yeah, it's true. Let me make a remark too. MK Davis is trying to say that Rick Dyer's tent video is real. I mean, if you're sitting there believing that, I don't see Richter chuckling over that one, but I'm sure he.
No, because I'm texting David Paulides this very second.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Awesome.
I believe that the part where Rick Dyers fell in that video was real.
Oh, I can't see that from. I only got a little itsy bitsy.
I just texted David Paulides. Are we still on for drinks tonight?
Oh Jesus!
Oh my God! Wow.
Okay, so here's an interesting little thing. I love Peter Byrne for just sneaking that Yeti finger out of the country. Do you know who actually? Okay, here is a trivia question.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good one.
Yeah. Who actually smuggled the Yeti finger out? Wasn't Peter Byrne. Peter Byrne who set the plan in motion, but who actually smuggled the Yeti finger out of Nepal? Anybody know? I'm looking for an answer in the chat. Oh, this is a great story.
Come on, we got some sharp people. Yep.
There we go.
There it is.
There it is. OT.
Yep, OT. The actor
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart. Yes, that's right.
But sorry, Amy. OT was on the fly. I don't know if that's because of the Facebook delay or not. But yeah, if you guys, we'll get you some wristbands next time we see you for winning the.
That's a good one though. Yeah, Jimmy Stewart smuggled it out.
Jimmy Stewart.
And they put it in his wife's what was it? Her bathroom box or her
her unmentionables.
Unmentionables case. That's it. That's right. Because no officer would look in there.
Nope. Well, so I see some people are saying, "Oh, Jimmy Stewart's wife." Well,
that's true. Yeah, they had. Well, Jimmy stuck it in his wife's case. That's what happened. But sure enough.
Please, Bob, don't let us stop you. See, and John Coppers makes a good point too. He's an hoaxer because he changed the color to prove the massacre. By definition, that's hoaxing. It's not like Rick Dyer, but he is an unintentional hoaxer.
That's the thing that I didn't like about him. Yeah. That's when he increased that saturation, and you can't tell me that MK doesn't know about saturation.
Absolutely. When
he increased that to make everything red, it just, oh gosh, no, I'm not on board with that. I'm sorry. Nope. I'm sorry. I don't want to throw MK under the bus because of the stuff they did before, but
just got called a mule.
Oh.
I in my younger days I could do a Jimmy Stewart impression. I can't do it so well today. So.
I always liked Jimmy Stewart. Hey man, he was an officer in the Air Force.
I can do Reagan. I actually can do a Reagan imitation. Well, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey Steve, you have 35 viewers right now. It's a record.
No, I have a lot more. YouTube numbers, baby. YouTube numbers.
Live.
Yeah, I'm looking at the live count.
You're broadcasting everywhere. Look at you.
Yes.
Well, come on. I mean, while we got Russell LaCourt on here, let's ask him about some of these shows he's been on.
Well, we kind of have to avoid that topic because he is under contract.
Oh, I understand. Okay. Yeah. Well,
but I can answer for him since
I can answer some questions. But you know what? I gotta say this. If you actually got, are you able to see who all's watching live even on YouTube? Because you can bet your ass Steve's watching.
Oh, is he watching?
I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Well,
he's his next video.
Yeah, he's got a bigger ego than all four of us combined.
Well, agreed. Mr. Isdahl, tear down that wall.
He's stuck on Reagan still. I think you should do the rest of the podcast in Reagan voice.
Yes, I'm going to do the rest of the. Mr. Haig, please sit down. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those who timepieced. I'm timing myself. I'm aging myself, but oh God.
Man.
Well, John Coppers has got a good comment. So the Patty video could ever be proven fake unless the suit popped up, and even then it would be near impossible to prove. If anything, the footprint casts of Patty were better than the film. You know, that's true, but we're not here to debate whether the film is real or not tonight. We're just we're presenting facts about what was shown from the oversaturated frames and trying to dismiss, debunk this whole massacre theory.
You know who would have been great at figuring out this theory? Richard Nixon.
Columbo.
No, Nixon would be up there. Well, I gotta tell you,
He's stuck on presidents.
I am not a crook. Anyway,
Wow.
Anyway, sorry. Let me make myself perfectly clear. No, I'm sorry. All right. Sorry, Richter, come on now. Can you do any impressions?
I can do a really good Dr. Bindernagel.
Okay, let's hear it. Come on. We got to hear this.
This is quite interesting. Let's take a look at this.
Okay.
How was that?
Oh, this show has really digressed, Steve.
No. So anyway, you had a question for Russell about Expedition Bigfoot. Are you guys on for a second season?
Well, we're trying. We're hoping. Nothing's definitive. It's how those things go. It's a matter of, hey, did we get enough viewers? Was there enough interest in it? Is it worth putting on again? So
Gotcha.
I'm hopeful. Don't know.
Well, we've got to have something to watch because, dude, I'm getting tired of watching Bigfoot Girl on Prime. I need something to watch. A new show that comes on with new stuff every week would be good. And I'm sure there are a lot of other people out there like me who are like desperate to see new Bigfoot stuff now because I think I've seen everything. I go back and I'm watching something I think I hadn't seen, and then it's like, oh yeah, I saw this film a couple of months ago. Dang it!
Look, Raggy. Amy says, Richter, you sounded like Scooby Doo.
Oh no!
Good. I could do a really good Matthew Johnson.
That's pretty easy. But no, please don't do Matthew Johnson. I just crumbled up my foil hat.
Oh my!
Yes, the Council of 12. We may have to do a Council of 12 video at one point in time. Just for future. Hey, while we're kind of recuperating our thoughts, I just want to do a little advertisement for the May 3rd show, which is up there. Next week, we're going to have Carl Crew on, who is the great nephew of Jerry Crew. So he'll be talking all about the print in his book. And he's an interesting cat. He's done some TV work and done some production and stuff. Very interesting guy. So we'll be back with him next May. May 3rd, next May. Well, I guess that is the next May, really. So, but that's next week's show. It should be a great talk about the discovery of the print that coined the term Bigfoot. So
that's going to be cool.
So, Russell, where do you think this thing ends?
With the with MK and his charade?
Yeah.
It seems like this thing has been it's cyclic. I think it'll come back. It'll die down after a while. The comedian in Canada will tire of just trying to come up with new material, and he'll move on to what it takes to kill something from several hundred yards away with a high-powered rifle, and go back to into his little lane. But I think, like it has in the past, it will come back and rear its ugly head here in another year or two, and it's just each time it's a matter of, are you guys serious enough to, really going to believe that crap? And it's always that on the fence having to defend yourself, because MK will calm down for a while and just kind of go on to something else and start talking about something else besides the Patty film. And then he'll cycle back to it because he knows that it gathers interest and gets steam and gets everybody all rallied up again. So I don't know.
And he has to wait for the next gen to come in.
Yeah.
The next group.
Yeah, I was kind of looking, Russ. I was watching the timeline on those videos, and it looks like MK first came up with his videos on talking about a Bigfoot massacre about 7 years ago. And then as I looked through some other dates on the videos, he revamped that about a year ago now and started talking about it again. I guess it's built up some interest or something. And so I don't know, maybe every 6 or 7 years it's gonna show back up.
Yep.
Well, we just had this not too long ago. It was about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. I remember just people getting really, really nasty with me on Bob's web Facebook page a while back, and I thought, okay, shut up.
That's why I did. I dedicated a whole hour of my show to the videos, and I had to watch every single one of them and combine all the clips of MK Davis with all the different claims he made, that Bigfoot has a prolapsed anus, Bigfoot has hemorrhoids, Bigfoot's carrying a stick, Bigfoot has a braid, Bigfoot has dreads, Bigfoot has a cone-shaped head. And of course, there's the bump, so therefore it got shot. The list goes on. And I have him zooming in on the costume/animal's breast. He goes, oh, look at that. Look right there. And he's just like a pervert, just like obsessed. The documentation, the proof, the evidence, unlike what Isdahl is spewing, is in the video right there, showing the mental condition and capacity of MK Davis. The man has a serious problem, guys. And unfortunately, Bob Gimlin has to pay the price for it. And his innocent wife, who has nothing to do with Bigfoot. See, that's what triggers me. That's what gets me so involved in this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's infuriating. And to me, what really infuriates me is everybody's entitled to their opinion comment. This is not an opinion. This is an accusation. There is a marked difference.
Yep.
If somebody turns around and says, well, I think your print is not real, that is an opinion. I think that photo is not real. I think that film is not real. That is an opinion. But when you turn around and say, I think you murdered a bunch, that's an accusation. And there's a staunch difference. What happens with accusations? What do? They cause people to get falsely accused. They get people to be shunned. They get people to be threatened. They get people, and not only them, but their families.
Yep.
I mean, has anybody watched the Richard Jewell movie?
No.
Oh my God. If anybody remembers, and this, I kind of look at it similarly. If anybody out there has seen Richard Jewell, remember what his mother went through. I mean, his mother tries to walk the dog, and she's surrounded by hundreds of reporters. She's got nothing to do with it, other than the fact that Richard is her son. Yeah. And in fact, he had nothing to do with it. But the fact is that, they had to have other people shop for them. They couldn't go out anywhere. They were prisoners in their own home. This is what a false accusation does to people. You want to look at a real-life false accusation? Watch Richard Jewell. Great movie. And very sad movie. And when you think about the state, if people take a hold of this, people like Carpenter and Isdahl that want to turn around and start promoting this bullshit, what ends up happening is the same thing, very similar, smaller scale, obviously, to Bob Gimlin that happened to Richard Jewell. You're being accused and accosted. You go to your events, and now people are accosting you, giving you dirty looks from across the room. Russell and I have talked about that too. You got to worry about, Bob's safety at meetings and conferences and stuff like that. It's garbage like that over false assumptions. Fellas, I say this to Isdahl and to Davis and to Carpenter. You want to prove your theory? Go to the site and dig up some bones. Other than that, shut your pie hole.
Yeah, I'll pay for them.
What, the pie hole?
Hey, if you can go out there and dig up a Bigfoot body, I'll buy it.
Amen. So will I.
Guarantee you. Yeah. Yeah, me and Russell will pitch in together, and we'll make you wealthy. Come on, do it.
I think what's frightening is, and I'm not going to go too deep into it because I'm actually collecting doing some really good record keeping, but when people put this kind of information out, and I remember one of the Canadian guys, I hate using his name, so I'm not going to use it, but the Canadian comedian said something about
how not to hunt.
How not to get her done. He said something about that you should go after them regardless of who they are. And then he made implication. He goes on this whole rampage about, Bobby Short was bullied and she was threatened and that sort of thing, and I'm here to protect the abused and that sort of thing, and I'll fight for that, and going on and on and on, and then he kind of goes on this tangent about he believes, or it's said that I could say something and then everybody can say it's said that this happened, but he said it's said that she was murdered. Total bullcrap. But what all it does is just trigger words, scary words, things where he's throwing stuff out there. I'm getting messenger messages from people that I collect as much information as I can. But when people get on Facebook and say to Bob, you better hope I don't find you at a conference. You better hope I don't see you. Now, I don't care who you are. You say something like that to an 88-year-old man.
Yeah.
That's a viable, it's a threat.
Yeah.
And it's being logged.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, if something ever happens to Bob Gimlin at a conference or anything else, there are people that will be accountable, and is the source of where all this crap is starting. And I don't think they
Justin Trepensky just chimed in. Not all Canadians suck, to be clear. No, we actually had Tom Steinberg on earlier. We've had you on, Justin, as well. So no, not all Canadians suck.
No, they do not.
You're absolutely right, Russell. It definitely is something, and that particular channel has threatened people, not only in the Bigfoot community, but in the conservation community as well. And I showed that on my blog. He actually went. According to the paper that does this animal rights stuff, he actually sent a picture of these dead wolves, and on the back of it, a sarcastic comment. I mean, that's the type of personality he is. But he's a cyberbully and he's a male bully. But he says he would open up a dialogue with anybody. Yet he ignored me months ago. You lost that chance, buddy.
Also, I want to back up what Russell said, because when I presented MK Davis on my show Off the Richter, I got a death threat in video form from one of MK Davis's followers. Now, what if I did get my head blown off by this particular person in Colorado? MK Davis is accountable.
Well, to that, I would say this as well. Would MK Davis be accountable? I don't think so. Just for the fact that if somebody turned around and did something to one of these three guys we talked about tonight, would we be accountable?
Well, take a look at how our society is right now.
Right.
If you shoot somebody with a Colt 45, they're not going to go after that jackwagon. They're going to go after Colt.
Yeah. Let me make it clear. I vehemently disagree with what these guys are doing.
Agreed.
They're not my pals. They're not my friends. One in particular I really don't like. But guess what? I don't want violence to come their way. That is not my way.
Me either.
I mean, and Russ, we've talked, and I know I was on a show with, I forget who, but they mentioned the fact that, I've been in scrapes as part of my job. I can take care of myself physically, but I don't ever want physical violence anyway on anybody. And I can beat them back with half my brain tied behind my back. So I'm not really worried about it.
Hey, Steve, how's that non-smoking thing coming along there?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Nice.
No, actually, it was Chris who was the non-smoker.
Yeah, mine's going well. Yeah, I went out and braved contracting COVID-19 to get cigarettes. So, I think they've got a better hold on me than I have a hold over them.
Yeah.
Mick.
Oh, Mick.
Mick.
Ouch.
But there's a difference. I mean, we're exposing facts here, and we're putting out factual information.
Yep.
We're not telling anybody to go after anybody else.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
That's a big difference.
I don't want people threatening these people. I don't want
Right.
people,
Right.
God,
disagree
Steve,
with
what
them.
kind of an Italian are you? Oh, the family. We need to get together and discuss this.
Hey, Richter, we talk like this a lot of times.
Just break his kneecaps. That's all I want.
No, we don't talk about that kind of stuff.
You guys are such good Christians. We don't wish any harm upon them.
The funny thing is, we used to have a medic that was a born again, and I remember he would do these codes, and he'd start the IV, and we like push the epi down the tube, hallelujah. He'd do stuff like. Sorry, just a story that came into my head.
Just letting you guys know, David Pilatus has not responded to my text.
Aw. You know what? I want to back up what you said, Steve. Realistically, I want no harm to come to Bob first and foremost.
Absolutely.
As far as these other people that are saying they're BS, I just assume I really don't wish any ill will on them. I just wish that they would actually step out of the basement, out into the light, get a clue, and realize that words have power, and that what they're doing is damaging and it's dangerous. And I just wish, which I could wish all day long, but I wish they'd just snap out of it and knock it off. They have to find a life of their own instead of researching someone else's. I mean, if I don't see you researching and trying to say something bad about somebody from 50 years ago. You're too busy living your own life here and now. So get a life, guys.
Yep. And but I will add the comment. I wouldn't mind to see if one of them did get pantsed. That would be funny.
I wouldn't want to see any of that. Are you kidding?
I can draw it. No, I can draw it.
Here it comes.
Oh, Bigfoot pantsing somebody.
Oh, oh no.
No.
No? You sure?
Well, he's going to do it right now.
I'm going to shut up Steve Isdahl in the drawing.
I've created a monster, folks.
Yeah.
And you see, that's how this should be battled back with. Chris, you know what time it is? We're down to the last 9 minutes.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask Russell. Russell, did you receive any sort of threats as a result of this mess going on?
Couple.
A couple.
Yep.
Man.
They're just words, man. They're just words.
Yeah.
You know,
hang in there.
I mean, everybody's a badass when you got a keyboard in front of you, but I've had a lot of people say some pretty evil shit to me over the past years, but then when they walk up to you at a conference, they're different. They're totally.
Yeah. Let me say this too. I will say this. The people mentioned in this show, at least they have the balls to put their name to the stuff. Just like I have the balls to put my name to the page. But it seems like the people making a lot of the threats, with the exception of the Canuck.
That's me.
I call him a comedian because he's a joke.
Yeah. Aside from him, the only people making threats are those who are hiding behind screen names. And I can find out who's behind those screen names too. Yeah. So go right ahead.
It's always bothered me when they say I have a credible source who wishes to remain anonymous. Well, then it doesn't count.
Well, exactly, because in a court of law, a credible source can't be anonymous.
Correct.
You're going to stand there and accuse somebody of homicide because they all believe that Sasquatch. They all believe in the Melba theory, with the exception of maybe Isdahl, who believes they're demonic. Carpenter's a Melbaite. So is Mr. Polites. So they feel that if somebody kills these things, it's homicide. So number one, don't tell me it's an opinion you're accusing somebody of homicide. Number two, Number two, and this is where I draw the line, is that if you think that a crime has been committed, then present your evidence, not some bullshit, not some speculation, not some he said, she said crap, not some anonymous witnesses, not some dead witnesses. Where is your evidence? Shell casings? None.
They don't prove anything.
Paperwork? Exactly. They don't even prove anything. Paperwork? Nothing. Bones or bodies? Nothing. 3 strikes? You're out. What more can we say? I mean,
and I did want to point out too, Steve. One of MK's videos that he made, he was pointing to Keith. What is it? Chazari. I'm sorry, the pilot. What's his name, Steve? Is it Keith Chazari?
Yes, something very similar.
Okay, something like that. Anyway, he was pointing to the pilot Keith and saying that he was Bob Titmus. Well, that has been proven to be wrong. That was not Bob Titmus. That was the pilot Keith. So there are several of the videos that MK is trying to identify people. He's saying it's one person and it's actually somebody else. You know, and that messes up timelines and everything else for this crazy theory.
Yep.
And
hey, let me throw something out there. Listen, I just want to hear the facts over the past couple of weeks on the FB forums. I've gotten a lot of grief. They could, find me in the woods, blah, 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 blah. It's rough asking questions. I tell you what, Aldo, PM me tonight. Show me a personal message. I'll throw you my phone number. We can talk man to man. We can talk on the phone and talk about all kinds of stuff. You need to ask questions. There's no dumb questions, and I know people get a lot of grief. But if there's one thing, I'm going to tell you straight. I'm going to tell you straight. I'm not going to steer you wrong. I'm not going to tell you something that isn't real. That's why this show has never been a clickbaitatorium. I'm not going to put something out there and leave everybody hanging. It is what it is. That's my job. Put it out there. Put the facts as they are. As an investigator, that's my job. That's all I do, is just put the facts out there. This isn't character assassination. Richter, did you post a picture?
No, I was going to read some of the comments before we
sure.
end the show.
Sure, absolutely. We're under no time constraint, so we run a few minutes over. That's cool too. But that's my purpose, is to put the facts out there. I don't care about clicks. I don't care about all this stuff. If I put out baloney, I have to sleep myself. I'm not going to do that. I have integrity. I have a conscience. So I can't sit there, just like I can't accuse somebody of hoaxing if I don't believe they're not hoaxing, just for the sake of doing it. I look at the evidence and say, hey, look, this smells like a hoaxer. That's my opinion in Mr. Carpenter's case, not the facts, but his evidence is suspect, and we've seen all that. Isdahl, I guess what? We caught you with the goods. Go ahead, Richter. I'm sorry.
No, I was just looking at some of the comments here. That's all.
Oh, okay. Nothing to say?
Nothing. Nobody's asking any questions.
Right. So with that, final words. Who the heck is... Oh, hang on a second. We may have something.
How about this for a final word, Steve, from Richter? If you don't have anything nice to say about anybody, don't say anything at all. And if you do have something mean to say about somebody, come sit by me.
So, okay, hang on a second. Let's check something. Oh, can I do that? Let's go over here real quick.
Yeah, we get a lot of comments during the show. I mean, I think we have one of the most well-informed audiences out there because these guys are sharp.
They are. You got
they
Ron
end up
in there. You got Amy Boo. You got some of the best people in here.
Steve and Chris, you guys ain't so bad either.
Getting better.
I'd say middle of the road, kind of.
Yeah. They've stepped it up by having us on their show.
Wow. I think we're their charity work for the week. I think that's what we are.
You guys are great, man.
Hey, I'm watching some of these comments, and I've been asked quite a few times. John Cooper keeps making comment. Not John Cooper. Was it him? Somebody just mentioned that Stacey Brown has some information on the PG film about it possibly being a hoax and that kind of thing. There's always going to be that, was it real? Was it not real? Was it a guy in a costume, not in a costume? I will tell you this. I think whatever was on that film that day is exactly what Bob saw. If it was a hoax, it was a damn good hoax. I've had an interview, in fact, just several months ago, I sat down in Bob Hieronymus' house, and I had a very nice, lengthy interview in which I filmed him. He allowed it. He wanted his side of the story to be told, and then I also sat down with Bob Gimlin and listened to his side of the story. Yeah. And the thing is, when I put this film together and put it out for you guys, I'll probably just throw it up on YouTube. It's not a pay site. It's nothing. It's not something I intend to try to capitalize on. It's just give you guys that information, let you have a front seat view of what these guys have to say. And both Bobs really come across their stories. You listen to them, you get caught up in it, and you guys decide that crap for yourself. I'm not going to get in here and tell you it's true. I'm not going to get in here and say it's not true. I think that every court case, you need to see all the evidence before making your own decision, and then there better be evidence to sustain it, or else it's all guesswork. So whatever happened that day, not a single one of the four of us were there.
That's right.
Man alive that was there, and he stood by this story, and whether you believe him or not, I want to see him have some dignity through the last few years of his life. I have a good time, and if nothing else, you get to say you knew the guy that was there in '67, and you got to meet him. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's a piece of history.
Yeah, that was the Patterson Gimlin film topic over in the Bigfoot forums for the longest time, and I'm sure it still is today. Is one of the largest debates going on.
Yeah,
and there's going to be people on both sides of the issue, and that's the way it's always going to be, and that's fine. And just like tonight, we're not here to determine whether or not it's it's real or if it's fake or anything like that. We're just trying to debunk this theory, this massacre theory.
I've asked Aldo. You just asked, did Bob ever wonder if he'd been hoaxed? I actually, if I asked him that, I've said, I am very, very frank and very personal with Bob. And right. I don't mind sitting there looking him in the eye and say, hey, Bob, what are the odds? What are the odds of those guys planning this thing? Because you're the perfect witness. Bob is that likable cowboy, been on the rodeo circuit, been with the sheriff's posse. He'd been around, and people loved Bob Gimlin. Right. And if I were gonna pull something off, and I was Roger Patterson, I would take the most likable guy in town, pull the wool over his eyes. That way I've got somebody, because nobody really gives a damn what I think. But if I've got Bob on my side and Bob believes what he saw, I've got something there. So I've asked Bob, I said, what are the odds of him doing that? And Bob said, well, I don't see how he could have done that. I just, Roger knew better than to mess with me, and it's interesting because I love asking Bob the hard questions like that.
Right.
And Bob said that he said, I don't see how it could have been a hoax. So, I mean, I hope that answers your question, Aldo. It's just, you take Bob for face value. When the man says he saw what he saw, you tend to not really question it. And Bob was carrying a rifle, and not one single round was fired the entire time. So that was a question Brent just threw out there.
Yeah, and I believe, according to Bob's own testimony, that the rifle was still in the carrier on the horse until Roger ran across and said, "Cover me."
Cover me. Yep.
And that's the only time he ever pulled a rifle out.
Yep. He didn't even point the weapon at what he was seeing. He just pulled it out to where if it got in a situation like that, he was
Right.
ready, and it was just one last thing he'd have to worry about. He said not once did he raise a rifle to his shoulder. He didn't look down the barrel. Just it was not necessary. Why do you do something that is retreating and walking away from you?
Right.
So he just felt that wasn't necessary. His story is fun to listen to, start to finish.
Yeah.
But it's the same story that he told in 1967, 1968. It's the same thing. It's been consistent. It doesn't vary. He doesn't add or subtract to it. It's just, you try to dig in and say, well, what did it smell like? Or do you remember anything about the eyes? Well, no, it just all happened so fast,
Right.
He doesn't try to add to it.
Right.
So, I mean, and Steve, we've talked about this, when somebody's embellishing on a story, they start pulling more details out of their ass that weren't there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And this has been the same.
Yeah.
Sorry, went on a tangent there, Steve. Apologize.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm dealing with somebody being a little rowdy.
Am I missing something?
No, because every time they've posted over on YouTube, it's been removed. And it had nothing to do with topic. So.
Well, Ron Bowles said a 30-30 wouldn't have done much. I don't believe it would have either, Ron.
I think it was a 30-06 from what Bob said.
Oh.
It was a bolt action 30-06, and he actually lost that rifle in a fire.
Huh, okay.
So there was another thing that came up that somebody had there. I have the rifle, and he said, no, that's not even possible.
Oh.
The rifle was destroyed in a fire. So it's funny. Are they making fun of me, Steve? Is that what you're having?
Oh, negative.
Is it Richter then? They're making fun of Richter? Because I'll get in on that.
I think Russell's the only one here with hair.
I think.
That.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like Lauren Coleman. No, put the hat back on there.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I think I just castrated.
Oh, Russ, you don't look like Lauren Coleman. No.
Too skinny.
You know what? I have Lauren and I don't see eye to eye about everything, but I do have respect for the man. He's actually a good researcher. He has never done anything, come after me about anything. His information is good. His museum, I heard, it's really great. I've never been to his museum. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I don't look like Lauren.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. So, Steve, when this theory was in its infancy, someone sent a letter to the district attorney of Humboldt County suggesting the massacre had taken place. Did that office ever take an interest? Well, I'll say a couple of things. There's a guy I don't see eye to eye with, too. And the message was there was a letter sent to the district attorney of Humboldt County. It was done by Scott Marlowe from Florida. And Mr. I Know Everything. And obviously they didn't do anything with it. Yep. So
when did that letter go out?
I want to say it was 2009.
Oh, that's when Mr. Marlowe sent the letter to the Humboldt County?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull that up right now.
Wow.
So, trying to find it.
Poor Scott Marlowe. He doesn't have a sense of humor anymore. He can't even laugh or joke about anything. He's turned into such a bitter critter.
Now, here's an article from the Crypto Zoo News. Or actually, no, it was from Cryptomundo, posted by Lauren Coleman, June 14th, 2008. And that was when the letter was dated. Dear Mr. Gallegos, it has become necessary to correspond with you as a number of questions have arisen over newly developed material from the film which Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin took in Bluff Creek area of Humboldt County back on October 20th, 1967. A number of photographic experts have re-examined clarified images from the film, along with several animal experts, and concluded the animal pictured in the film was actually a person afflicted with congenital generalized hypertrichosis. Hypertrichosis is a medical term referring to a condition that exhibits excessive exhibits as excessive body hair, the so-called werewolf syndrome, such as it afflicts with the now famous Mexican wolf boy.
Yeah.
In addition to this determination, there is increasing photographic evidence that the person, or possibly persons, so afflicted were shot and killed by others in the Patterson-Gimlin party, who remain unnamed by Mr. Gilman, who survives Robert Patterson. And Robert Patterson noticed, not Roger. While circumstantial, there are additional inconsistencies in the account of events that suggest there is something more to the story than has been revealed by those involved. By those involved, you just said it was Mr. Gimlin. Having been associated with the analysis work of two photographic experts examining the film, Mr. Marlon Davis, and redacted by Cryptomundo, I am compelled to contact you to avoid any hint of complicity in failing to inform the authorities of these potentially criminal acts. Really? I would suggest that it would be prudent for your office to initiate an investigation into this matter in order to ascertain the actual facts surrounding this event and determine if criminal prosecution proceedings should be initiated. Please feel free to contact me for additional details, due diligence sources, and information regarding the researchers who have discovered the material in question. Sincerely, Scott Marlowe, Pangea Institute, 514 Winter Terrace, Winter Haven, Florida.
Was this the email or was this a regular snail mail letter?
That was a snail mail letter.
You know what? I bet when this guy got this letter, he's like calling everybody in his office. Hey, come here, look at it. You guys got to see this.
Hey, you ain't going to believe what I just got from Florida. No, I didn't get a picture of a palm tree. I got this guy saying Bigfoot was killed right down here, down over there on 50 next to Buff Creek.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the lunacy there. You know, Mr. I'm gonna play the high road. But so.
Wow.
Yeah. So somebody, but thanks for bringing that up. That was a good point. I forgot about that. Thank you, Jill, for that fact. I like I said, I known about it, but I forgot about it. You know, with all this other stuff going on. But yeah.
Since we got Russell on here, I have a question for him. Lauren, the international conference this year, due to the coronavirus, are you still on schedule for the Labor Day weekend? What's the?
Well, we still have May, June, July, and August. We got 4 months prior to the event. I didn't come on here to promote the event, but
I know but there's going to be people that are going to want to know, like me, because I want to go to it.
I'm hoping that everything still goes through, but let's take a look at the facts. They made us restrict the amount of crowd size we had prior to being sent home and quarantine. So I can only guess that as we progress back out of this thing on the other side, they're going to say, well, you can't have crowds larger than 100 or 200 or 500. And I don't want to hear that at the very last minute and have to tell everybody at the last minute. So I'm trying to get information as quick as I can. If they restrict the crowd size, then I will have to cancel. If they do not restrict the crowd size, then we're all out full sale.
Nice.
Hope that answers your question.
It does, and I know Jill Smith has been asking about this as well.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Jill just yesterday, actually. Sweetheart of a lady.
And I'm probably going to have to make my way to the West Coast for the next one.
You got till September to get here, Steve.
I don't know if I'll make it September, but I'll make the one 2021.
That would be good. Can you imagine putting Steve Kulls on the stage and having the audience do a Q&A with him? Be better than half the speakers you got up there.
Oh. Jesus Christ.
Sorry, I just need to know how to watch what I say.
Wow.
Can I say bad words on this thing, Steve?
That's right, Tack. You know what? Maybe September will be good. I hear a road trip. I know. So yeah, hopefully everything, this COVID-19 stuff will be done by June 1st. I know they're talking in New York about, our pause is until May 15th and they're going to reevaluate. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I figure there's probably going to be a couple more weeks and probably June 1st you're going to start things seeing slowly open. Maybe even lucky. Maybe things will start open on May 15th. I don't know.
That'd be great.
But unfortunately, my company that I work for has been decimated by this. So I don't know if I'm even going to have a job to come back to, which is okay with me, I suppose. Is what it is, what it is. Can't do nothing about it. No sense in crying about it. So, well, folks, I think we've had a great show tonight. Russell and Richter, I want to thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
And, I want to thank Tom Steinberg, too, if you're out there listening, for coming on.
Thank you, Tom.
And this time he probably can hear you.
Yeah. If he's watching, yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Chris, any final words before you go?
I just want to thank everybody again for coming on. Russell, we appreciate having you. And Richter, appreciate it. And Tom, if you're out there, buddy, we appreciated having you on. It was very interesting. appreciate all the people that come in. And I love our listeners. Thank you guys. You guys are sharp.
And, of course, I want to do a quick pitch again for next week's show, May 3rd, 2020. We're going to have on Carl Crew, great nephew of Jerry Crew. Folks, again, as always, I say keep safe. Everybody keep away from that friggin' virus. Anyway, God bless. Keep on squatching. Catch you all next week.
Thank you, Steve.
Bye, guys.
Hey folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless and keep on squatching.